Yo, what is good, fam? Your boy Jadiro here, and today we're going over all the patch notes for the Season 10 PTR for Spiritborn. So let's get started here. We have the Infernal Hordes Reborn. Pretty sweet. We're going to skip over most of this stuff today. We're specifically focusing on the Spiritborn for Season 10 and the PTR. And as for PTR testing for Season 10, I'll be doing most of that on the live stream. So if you guys want to come check me out on the live streams, I'll be more than happy to answer all of your questions. But let's keep it moving here. We're going to scroll down all the way to our first point, Bartuk. Bartuk is the new big baddie of the Infernal Hordes, and he is where we get most of our Chaos Armor or Chaos Uniques, which is our first topic. So let's scroll down here to Harness Entropy with Chaos Armor. So essentially you can see from the visual here, we can get items like Banished Lord's Talisman as different pieces of armor. And those pieces are specifically helm, chest, gloves, pants, and boots. Now I'm going to call it Chaos Unique simply because you can get Chaos weapons as well. And here's another visual of the different types of Chaos Armor that you can get. And then we have our general uniques that you can get across all the classes. We have Banished Lords, we have Crown of Lucian, Endurant Faith, and we have Fist of Fate. Now this is pretty sweet because we can put the passive of Fist of Fate on a different piece of armor now, like our boots. So we can free up our glove slot for our damage multiplier, tempering, and masterworking. Dope. And moving along with the list, we have Flicker Step, Godslayer's Crown, Lorcan's Talisman, Mother's Embrace, Paingorger's Gauntlets, and Zafal's Corroded Signet. Pretty sweet. Now all of these items can drop from Bartuk in different forms of armor. Now moving down, we have Barbarian, Druid, Necromancer, Rogue, and Sorcerer. Before we get to the Spiritborn, if you guys want me to do specific videos like this on specific classes, let me know in the comments. Now moving down to the Spiritborn here, we have all the items listed. And for your convenience, I put all of them down here in the item tab for you to see. Let's swap this over here real quick. So let's go over all the items that we can get for Spiritborn as Chaos Armor or Chaos Uniques. We have the Ring of Midday Hunt, we have Peacemonger's Signet, and then we have the Band of First Breath. Pretty sweet. Then we have Loyalty's Mantle. This is going to be totally awesome if we can put this on a pair of boots or a pair of pants. And then we have Balzan's Max Leto. I think this is in a perfect spot. It's also the best Spiritborn item currently, in my opinion. Then we have Harmony of Ebby, which is also dope. It's got a sweet passive and a sweet multiplier, which we can free up our helmet spot for Air Perdition or Shaco now. And then we have Jansynth Shell as our final Chaos Armor item. I think this is also in a dope spot. We might just keep it here. Now moving on to what I think is particularly cool, we have the staffs, the unique staffs of the Spiritborn. Now we can put all of these multipliers or passives onto our armor as opposed to keeping our two-handed weapon slot busy with one of these uniques. This way we have the two-handed weapon slot open. We can now put dope tempering and a dope damage multiplier on our two-handed weapon almost always. And what's even more cool about this is that we can now finally shake up the build meta. I think they could still buff a lot of the builds. Like there's still a lot of build potential in terms of all the abilities that the Spiritborn has, but this will allow us to make stronger builds and hopefully buff some less like, D tier, E tier, F tier builds into maybe the B tier, A tier. And having more builds in that B tier or A tier category is going to be awesome, especially for people that like to make builds like myself. Now an honorable mention that I want to bring up here is Sunbird's Gorget. Now, this item single-handedly has some of the best passive affixes that you can get on any necklace for the Spiritborn. Now, before we move on to the second topic here, I want to bring up an honorable mention item that I would love to see as a Chaos Armor item. I'm sure they've done all the testing on it, but it's the Sunbird's Gorget. Simply because it has 3 of the best passive skills that you can have as Spiritborn. If we go over to our abilities here, we have Potent, we have Furnace, and we have Acceleration. These are all damage multipliers. So being able to take this from our necklace spot and free up the necklace spot for an Ancestral Legendary to temper, masterwork, and put a multiplier on would be awesome. And then we can put the passive affixes of Sunbird's Gorget onto an armor piece, which would just take our damage of any build to the next level, which I think is totally dope. And that's truly what Diablo 4 is about. It's about that power fantasy. So hopefully, with enough testing and after, or before Season 10 goes live, maybe they'll add this to the list. Now, the only item that we didn't have present here is Hesha E Kasungi. A lot of the Spiritborn items are hard to say, so I'm doing my best, but I'm going to call it Hesha for now. I believe this is a gloves piece. We cannot show this yet, of course, because it is the new unique, which we'll talk about in just a bit. Let's keep scrolling down here to our second topic, which is the Chaos perks. Now, Chaos perks look very familiar. We got seasonal powers coming once again. Here we go. But, I really look forward to them despite what people think. I think it's dope to have new powers anyways. It is rinse, repeat, but these powers actually look pretty cool. And there's 4 different rarity types. You have magic, rare, legendary, and unique, of course. And you can equip 3 non-unique perks at once and 1 unique perk. In addition to the perks every class can use, each class has access to a set of perks that are exclusive to them. Each class has access to 16 perks, 4 of each rarity, and 4 class-specific perks. Pretty sweet. So if we scroll down here to magic, it looks like there's only 3, and the 4th one of the 16 would be the class-specific perk to the class that you're playing. Now these all look pretty cool. The first one, Invigorating Attacks, looks like it's really just trying to push like a basic attack build. Then we have Accelerating Chaos, which is basically AoE damage, like crazy damage for cooldown reduction. But I like Unstable Power because if this can stack with the rune that does the same thing, this will be quite nasty. Chaotic Magic erupts from your basic skills, which is okay, making them guaranteed to critically strike and overpower for 50% to 100% increased damage. But the power is unstable, giving them a 3-second cooldown. Interesting. So I almost imagine if we had Accelerating Chaos and we had Unstable Power, we could randomly reduce the cooldown of our basic attack, which is pretty cool. And I think we'll be picking up these magic ones quite early in the seasonal progression of Season 10 because these are the lowest of the rarity. Let's move on to the rare Chaos perks here. We have Erupting Chaos, Power Siphon, and Alternating Alterations. Wild. Now, the one that catches my eye here the most is Erupting Chaos. Chaos bursts randomly erupt around you, dealing 200 to 400% damage of your highest damage type. Your chaotic bursts also deal 100% of their initial damage over 4 seconds. So as a Spiritborn player, we have Balzan's Max Ladle, and Thorns is one of the best builds now. And if they don't nerf it going into the next season, this is going to be a crazy synergy right here. Now I'm simply just going over the ones that catch my eye. I'm sure they're all good, but I like to go over ones that I can actually start to like theory craft a build with. So that's part of what I'm doing here. Now moving down to Legendary, we have Marred Guard. Then we have Chaotic Cooldowns and Crazy Brew. Now the Legendary one that catches my eye here for Spiritborn is the Marred Guard. So you can no longer be healed above 50% life, and with the Gen Synth shell, especially if you're going like a gorilla type build, it reduces your health over time. However, you gain 5 to 10% maximum resistance to all elements, 20 to 40% armor, and 50 to 100% increased barrier and fortified generation. Now this in tandem with the unyielding hits aspect is pretty cool because simply by casting a gorilla spell, you increase your weapon damage by your armor. So we're stacking more armor, and then with Gen Synth Shell, we get crazy amounts of armor, which is dope. So I can see a crazy gorilla build is about to happen in Season 10. Now moving on to the Chaos unique perks, we have Chaos Unleashed, Brawn over Brains, which is an interesting title, and then we have a Beast Cornered. Now there's 2 here that really caught my eye. We have Chaos Unleashed, then we have a Beast Corner, and I'll explain why in just a bit. Now Chaos Unleashed looks like another sweet Chaos perk for Balzan's Max Lyle Thorns build because we're getting more damage based on our highest damage type. And then we get a 20% increased critical strike chance, and they deal 100 times increased damage. Like I'm telling you, I think some of the builds are just going to absolutely go crazy. Now, Beast Cornered caught my eye simply for this last part. Spending resource also drains a percentage of your life equal to 30% of your resources spent. Refunding those resources. This cannot reduce you below 10% life. So I think this Beast Cornered will be really cool in tandem with, where is it? Marred Guard. Pretty interesting if you put those 2 together. So you can't be healed below. So you can't be healed above 50% life, and you can't be reduced below 10% life, which is actually pretty wild. Now let's go into the class specifics. Again, we're going to skip over the Barbarian and everybody until we get to the Spiritborn, simply because we're focusing on the Spiritborn for this video. Now moving on to our first Spiritborn Chaos perk, we have Alacrity. Your basic skills gain 10 to 30% increased attack speed. Their dash range is increased by 50%, and their third attack now happens every second attack. So I see this being pretty cool on Rock Splitter and Thrash right off the hop, simply because those are mobility basics that provide a dash when you're using them. Now moving down here, we have Combined Strikes, which is our rare Chaos perk. Your base core skills hit additional times in a larger area for 20 to 40 times increased damage. I'm already thinking Crushing Hands here, or Rake is pretty good too, but also have a 10-second cooldown. Okay, maybe not. Your basic skills third attack resets the cooldown of your core skills. Okay, cool. So these 2 in tandem work pretty sweet. because we're getting our third attack every second attack, and our basic skill's third attack resets the cooldown of our core skills. So these will probably be used quite frequently. And then moving down, I've highlighted this part because I don't want to read it because it doesn't make sense in my brain, but maybe it does in yours. But we have Back Off as our Chaos Legendary perk. When casting a skill, it deals 30% reduced damage to the enemies who are close to you and 100 to 200 times increased damage to all other enemies. I'm immediately thinking of Vade Spiritborn, the Eagle Spirit Hall. Those Storm Feathers do nutty damage in the right hands. So this might be really cool in that build. Then we have Convocation of Spirits as our unique Chaos perk. Casting a non-ultimate skill has a 1% chance to invoke the spirits of that skill's type, which deal 100 to 200 times increased damage. This chance is increased by 1% of your ultimate skill damage up to 10%. So after seeing that Chaos perk, my brain immediately jumped to Wushu Nakpa. Casting an ultimate skill grants you and amplifies your matching primary spirit hall bonus by 250%. But if we also look at the affixes on here, we have increased ultimate damage by 290%. So with that being a potential chaos armor weapon or chaos unique, that'd be pretty cool in tandem with Convocation of Spirits. Now that does it for the chaos perks. Let's move on to the new unique items. Let's skip past here and get all the way to our good old Spiritborn. So I'm going to call this Heshike just for simplicity purposes. We get 10% to 15% attack speed. Then we get 46.5 to 6% vulnerable damage. Then we get 15% to 20% ultimate cooldown reduction. And then we get 3 to 5 guerrilla skill ranks, which is pretty sweet. Now the unique power for Heshike is the protector can be invoked at a range and pulls inward with its smashes, so something like Vortex. Enemies in its area take 30 to 50 times increased damage from your guerrilla skills, and this is doubled while they are knocked down or a boss. Pretty crazy. Now right off the hop, I would love to see this be a higher damage multiplier right away. This is the first thing I said. I said 30 to 50 is pretty cool, but I know there's a lot of other things going on right now with Season 10, but I'd like to see this a little bit higher. Maybe like 50 to 100 or something crazy. Like give us something crazy. Give us like something like 100 to 200 increased percent damage. So at least that we have, Gorilla on the menu as a build. Now the final topic of today, we're going to skip all the way down and we're going to go to the patch notes. Let's see what they buffed and what they nerfed for Spiritborn. So pretty convenient. Spiritborn is the first on the patch notes here. So we have our unique item here, but it looks like they've already nerfed it. Blizz, trust me, don't nerf stuff. Go up. I know it sounds crazy. Don't change. Make these better. Make these passive affixes better. Don't nerf them. I don't know why. I don't know if this is the non-GA version or something like that, but don't go back. Go back to what it was just up here. This is what we want to see, if not better. And where we get the new unique item is from Gregory. That's what I like to call him, and Urivar. All right, here, let's go to Spirit Halls. So, Jaguar Hall. Okay, did they nerf it? So, our additional strikes no longer benefit from the aspect of the Plains Power, which is what looks like a huge nerf. So, that means our Plains Power aspect isn't going to stack with the additional hits that we get when we use the Hunter. However, they did increase the additional strike damage increase from 15 to 20%. So we did get a buff. Now moving down to the primary Eagle Hall. Now this is what I like to see. I was really thinking about how will they change this to make this better, and I think they hit the nail on the head here. So instead of getting the Storm Feathers whenever we evade, now we get Storm Feathers whenever we cast an Eagle skill or we evade, which is dope. And on the Spirit Hall, if we have our primary Spirit Hall set to the Eagle, that means all other skills will be Eagle skills. What's crazy about this is casting an Eagle skill. That is a crazy first 3 words right there. So any ability that's on our bar, we can make an Eagle skill is going to be able to cast Storm Feathers. Wild. So as for the secondary Eagle Hall, we also got another buff. So instead of it being every 4 meters that you travel, we get critical strike chance. It's every other cast is a guaranteed critical strike. And those critical strikes grant us a 20% vulnerable damage bonus for 5 seconds. Insane. Now we have Crushing Hand, damage increase from 50 to 100%. Pretty cool. I want to see something crazy like 150, 200% for these damage bonuses, man. I really want to see builds like really fly. Then we have a Quill Volley nerf here, but let me tell you something, guys. You can't nerf Quill Volley unless you make this 1%. Quill Volley is just absolutely nuts the way it scales. It's insane. So 26 to 20%, don't worry about it. Then, of course, we have Rake initial damage increased from 30 to 40%. Our second hit of damage is increased from 45 to 60%. I think this is dope. This is definitely a buff, but again, I want to see those percentages go a lot higher than what they're doing. Stinger, honestly, I would love to see a build on this. I'm sure there is a build on this, so I really can't look at this like it matters right now, but I will do some PTR testing. That'd be cool to see a Centipede build make a comeback. And here we have it. Gorilla, like I said, is on the menu. The Protector. Rank 5 Thorns damage bonus is increased from 150 to 300%. That's what I'm talking about, Blizzard. That's the kind of damage increase I want to see. Now let's move down here to the Harmonious Protector. Now this is the second part of the Protector. And it says the Protector's strike deals 350% increased damage, and all the enemies within its area deal 30% reduced damage. So they basically took out all the fluff of what it was previously. Then we have the Exalted Protector, which is the last part of the Protector Ultimate. So again, they took out all the fluff and they increased it by 5% more damage. Okay, not too bad. As for the Hunter, it doesn't look like they nerfed it, but maybe they did in a sense, because now you don't have the ability to execute non-boss enemies. You have a 10% chance within 8 seconds to do so now on the first pounce. You know, I don't blame them. I see the Hunter is very popular, and I think they're trying to make the other, abilities and the other spirit avatars, have some sort of showcase now. And speaking of the other spirit avatars, we have the Seeker. So you have a damage increase on the first hit from 35 to 52%. Again, Blizzard, let's up the damage there. And I spoke too soon because we go from 300% to 450%, which is insane. So moving down here, instead of having the Seeker's damage being increased, they say elites hit twice by the Seeker have a 25% chance to refund a charge. So we can almost spam it if used correctly. And then it's doubled, so it's a 50% chance against bosses. Insane. So we can just maybe spam the Seeker like we used to with the Hunter. And then finally we have the Devourer, and they just simply buffed the damage on the Devourer. Now moving down to the passive skills here, I'm a little confused on this one because basically it says that we had a chance to execute non-boss enemies when we knock down enemies with the first hit. Now we get the bonus of damage when we attempt to knock down enemies, but we no longer execute. So kind of, it's kind of like a neutral, we still have the damage buff, but we don't have the ability to execute non-boss enemies anymore. So maybe that's a slight nerf there. Now Resilient looks a lot better because every time we used to cast a Gorilla skill, we got increased maximum life. Now we get increased maximum life based on how many Gorilla skills are in our action bar. And not only that, we get knockdown duration, so enemies can technically stay down longer, and then we also get barrier generation for the same purposes. The only drawback here is for each base Gorilla. I think what would be cool is take out the base for each Gorilla skill on your action bar, so that if we choose to go our Spirit Hall as the Gorilla, all our abilities can be Gorilla abilities. Moving down here, we have the best key passive, Noxious Resonance. And they increased the damage from 180 to 300%, which is absolutely insane for Balzan's max lateral there. But they decreased the area of effect damage. Honestly, that doesn't matter. This is insane. This is going to be crazy, man. We almost doubled our damage output there. And speaking of Thorns, down to the legendary aspects here, we have Aspect of Bristling Vengeance. Now this is strictly for our Gorilla skill Payback. Payback now echoes forward and deals 100 to 150% of your Thorns along the way. Crazy. And the final echo is a larger and deals double the Thorns damage. Cool, man. I'm telling you, Gorilla is on the menu for Season 10. And then moving down here, we have Aspect of the Wild Claws. Our damage on Rake is being increased from 100 to 120% damage, from 65 to 85. And with a nerf to Quill Volley, we get a buff to Quill Volley as well. We have Aspect of Rebounding. Now as for the unique items, we have Harmony of Ebby. We're going from 10 to 30 to 20 to 40% damage increased per spirit type. Then we have the Sept Staff, which is damage increased from 50 to 100% to 80 to 120%. And then finally for the Rod of Kepi Leke, we're getting another damage increase, which is pretty dope. And then we're getting a buff to one Paragon Legendary node here. Previously it was a lucky hit proc, up to 30% chance to knock down vulnerable enemies. You deal 30% increased damage to crowd-controlled enemies. Now it's been changed to up to a 30% chance to knock down vulnerable enemies. You deal 15% increased damage, doubled against crowd-controlled enemies. Which I think is effectively the same if I'm not correct. You're still doing 30% damage either way. I wonder why they changed that. But that does it for the video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to try and do more videos like this, of course. I just want to switch up the content. I usually just do builds for Diablo 4, and I really wanted to do more of the patch notes, like stuff on the PTR, like really expand our horizons here for Diablo 4. So that does it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more like this, let me know. I'm your boy Jadiro. Sign off for now. Peace.